Hello guys, today I want to talk to you about 3 words that can be a very powerful pointers at some of the residual resistance that might be happening on the insomnia recovery journey. This usually happens during the conversation I have with people, and they describe their experiences in a certain way, the way how they formulate their questions give me such a powerful pointers that it's the moment I hear a certain word that they use, it instantly gives me like a light bulb moment when I feel like, oh, this is probably where they've been, stuck. So I want to share with you those words that kind of like trigger my attention. And I hope that once you know those words, that you would be able to also identify the residual resistance. I hope that it will be able to give you guidance to how to proceed. But before I do that, I want to say that this video is not really about that you need to somehow filter what you're saying, that you should not use certain words, or maybe that you should self-censor yourself. This is not the point of this video, and I think we don't need to really change our language or change the way how we talk. We need to allow ourselves to express ourselves in an authentic way, the way how we feel is right to us. So it's really not about the words themselves. The point of the video is to help you through the way how you formulate things, to find the pointers that can give you idea, okay, this is the place where I've been stuck, and to help you move on. The word itself is not a problem. The what's behind this word, this is what is worth looking at. The first word is still. I think basically all of us use this word in a sentence. Usually it goes something like, I've been doing better lately, but I still have some thoughts closer to bedtime. I still ruminate about sleep. Or I've been sleeping better on some nights, but I would still find myself tired the next day. And this word still is a really nice pointer at a certain assumption that something is still a problem, something that isn't right. And when we think of something as a problem, the natural response from our brain is to problem solve it. The brain will try to look out for it. It will try to warn us when it happens, and it will try to give us ideas and motivate us to do something about it. So when we say that I'm still having those thoughts before bedtime, what the brain hears is that, okay, watch out for that and make sure this doesn't happen. So when the evening comes, the brain feels vigilant. The brain feels like, oh no, thinking about sleep before bedtime is bad. You should not experience that. But paradoxically, because we forbid ourselves from thinking certain thoughts, they are more likely to appear. And when they do appear, our brain goes into this kind of like fire alarm when it starts kind of being sensitive to the thought. So we have a thought, and then we also have a fearful response to that thought. We begin to feel like, oh, I'm failing at this again. I should not be thinking this way. So by defining something as a problem, we are more likely to make it sticky. So this is why it's helpful to see what are the things that we feel like are still, here and should not be here. This is what can give us really good pointers at how to move on. And usually moving on means that how we can learn to coexist with it. How can we befriend it? How can we allow it to happen without judging ourselves, without hurrying ourselves up to get rid of that? And when something like thought or emotion is no longer seen as a problem, this is when this emotion passes smoothly, until the point when it will even stop arising in the first place. Whatever it is that you feel like you're still experiencing on your journey and is not 100% okay, just see what is it. And if you can actually acknowledge, accept it, allow it. The second word is supposed or shouldn't or should. Usually it's being used in sentences like, I had a rough night and I know I'm not supposed to be frustrated. I'm not supposed to be negative, but I kind of cannot shake off that feeling from a bad night. And this word supposed to feel I'm not supposed to feel frustrated is something that tells us that, okay, feeling frustration is not okay. You're not supposed to feel that. And therefore, if it's there, it's a problem. So we begin to resist it again. So what is helpful in those moments is to see that whatever we think that is not supposed to be in our experience is very likely that it's already there. And if it's already there, it is more helpful to own it, acknowledge it, and let it be, rather than trying to feed ourselves into some ideal way how our recovery should look like, or the ideal way how we should think or behave or feel. Because if it's already there, it's there. We cannot fool ourselves. We cannot pretend that we are not frustrated, that we are not exhausted, or we cannot pretend that we aren't bothered by it. So the emotion itself is not the problem, and when we let ourselves know that it's okay to experience frustration, if this frustration is already here, then what happens is that we stop applying more pressure or using a lot of energy on trying to suppress this. And in the absence of using that energy, we allow that emotion to be processed naturally and move on from there. And once we acknowledge, let's say if it is the frustration that I'm feeling, and I say like, yeah, I am frustrated, I kind of hate it, I would prefer that to not have a rough night, but I'm allowed to feel that. What happens is that as I acknowledge and own that emotion, with time, as the day goes on, I'm more likely to engage in other things because I'm no longer spending energy and focus on that frustration, on the notion that I'm doing something wrong. And that can be a very powerful, point when we really own the stuff that is already here and not trying to push or trying to pull the stuff that is not yet there. So, which is usually, I cannot enjoy wakefulness. I know I should be, I should enjoy it. Well, you don't have to enjoy it. You don't have to make yourself artificially positive about, being awake at night. Because, not everyone, like when they're awake, they're having fun. So allowing yourself to not try to create an emotion that is not there, just like allowing yourself to not push away or remove the emotion that is already there, this is what can give us a lot of energy to move on from there. And the third word, and maybe this is one is not so obvious, but I hear it from time to time from people, and the word is work. So what usually people tell me is something like this, like, I listened to your video and you said that, we need to remind ourselves that we are safe and we need to, listen to what our anxious mind wants to say, not to push it away and so on. And I tried that and I didn't sleep anyway, so it didn't work. And the moment when I hear this phrase and it didn't work, it already gives me this idea that this thing, what they were doing, actually turned into an effort. In reality, there is nothing that has to work on sleep, because sleep is passive. Sleep is something that our bodies know how to do, and there is nothing external or no thought, no mindset, no behavior that can guarantee that the night will look exactly how we want it. So whenever we think in those categories, this works and this doesn't work, we are already introducing an assumption that there is a certain leverage that we can pull and that there is a button that we can press every time and it has to work. And if it doesn't, then it creates a lot of suffering. When we do things just because it makes sense to us, it is something that allows us to be okay with wakefulness, with things that we cannot control. This is when they are most helpful. But when we do things only for the sake of, I'm doing this, but I'm expecting that it will turn my night to look like this, and then if I don't get that outcome, then I'm gonna get discouraged and frustrated. This is a really good pointer that there was some resistance, some expectation that was already before we started to do what we did. So I hope that these words made sense. And again, what I want to say is that you don't have to watch yourself how you speak about this. It's not about that, because it can be quite exhausting to okay, from now on I should not use the word steal, or I should not use the word work or so on, because then we are back in the game. We are still having some sort of strategy. Okay, as long as I'm not using this word, then I'm supposed to proceed faster on my journey, which is again a form of control. So really don't feel the need to filter yourself, but what these words show us. They are a really valuable source of that knowledge. They can give us the answers already by the moment when we formulate our thoughts. Maybe it is helpful for someone to write that down. Maybe it's good to kind of maybe, speak it like to yourself, or just like to hear yourself how you, honestly talk about this, and then see, some of the pointers, like those words, they can give you some idea, like, oh, this is the thing I'm not accepting, or this is the thing I'm struggling with. This already can give us some, directions that we can explore.